You know what's exhausting? The constant performance, the endless audition for a role you never wanted in a play that never ends. You wake up every morning, and before your feet even hit the floor, you're already calculating, already measuring, already wondering if today you'll finally be enough. And here's the thing nobody tells you. You're not actually trying to prove your worth to other people. Oh, you think you are. You think you're performing for your boss, your parents, your partner, that imaginary audience that's always watching. But that's not what's really happening here. You're trying to prove your worth to yourself. Let that sink in for a moment. All those achievements you're chasing, all those boxes you're checking, all those ways you're bending yourself into shapes that don't quite fit. You're doing it because somewhere, deep down, you bought into a lie. The lie that your worth is something you have to earn, that your value is conditional, that you're not okay just as you are. But what if I told you that the entire game is rigged, that the race you're running has no finish line, that the approval you're seeking is like trying to fill a cup that has no bottom? Most people spend their entire lives in this trap. They climb the ladder, they achieve the goals, they get the recognition, and still that gnawing feeling remains. Still that voice whispers, not enough, not yet. Maybe if you just do a little more. And so they keep running, keep performing, keep proving, never realizing that they're chasing a mirage. Let's look at what's actually happening when you're caught in this cycle of proving yourself. You're living in a state of perpetual measurement. Everything you do gets filtered through this question. Does this make me valuable? Does this prove I matter? You meet someone new and you're not really present with them. You're thinking about how you're coming across. You're crafting your words carefully, presenting the edited version of yourself, the one that seems impressive, put together, worth knowing. You're not connecting. You're performing. You accomplish something at work, and instead of feeling satisfied, you immediately think about the next thing. Because that accomplishment, it didn't fill the void like you thought it would. The validation felt good for about 5 minutes, and then the hunger came back, stronger than before. You look in the mirror, and you don't see yourself. You see all the ways you're failing to measure up to some impossible standard you've internalized. Too old, too young, too much, not enough. The standards shift, but the feeling stays the same. Inadequate. And relationships? Oh, relationships become transactional when you're stuck in this pattern. You're not loving people. You're using them as mirrors, hoping they'll reflect back a version of yourself that feels acceptable. You're not asking, how can I show up for this person? You're asking, what do I need to do to make them validate me? Here's what's insidious about this whole thing. It's invisible. You don't wake up and think, today I'm going to spend all my energy trying to prove I deserve to exist. It's so woven into the fabric of your life that you don't even see it. It's just what you do. It's just how life works, right? Wrong. Because somewhere in the world right now, there are people who aren't playing this game. They're living differently. They're not constantly calculating their worth. They're not measuring themselves against invisible standards. They're not performing for an audience that doesn't exist. And you know what? They're free in a way that you've forgotten is possible. But how did you get here? How did this become your operating system? Well, think back, way back. You were a child once, and you learned very quickly that love had conditions. When you were good, when you achieved, when you pleased the adults in your life, you got affection, attention, approval. When you failed, when you disappointed, when you were just yourself without any accomplishments to justify your existence. The warmth went away, so you learned. You learned that being is not enough. You learned that you have to do to deserve to be loved. You learned that your worth is something outside yourself, something you have to constantly earn and re-earn and never quite secure. And that learning, it went so deep that you forgot it was learning. You forgot that it's just a story, just a belief system, just one way of relating to life. You started to think it was truth. You started to think that's just how reality works. Now let's go deeper. Let's look at what worth actually is, because this is where it gets interesting. Worth is a concept. It's not a thing you can touch or measure or prove. It's an idea we made up, and then we forgot we made it up. Look at nature for a moment. Does a tree prove its worth? Does a river justify its existence? Does a bird wake up anxious about whether it's bird enough? The entire natural world simply is. It exists without apology, without justification, without this endless self-measurement that we humans have turned into an art form. But we're different, you say. We're conscious. We're self-aware. We have to figure out who we are and what we're worth. Do we, though? Or is that just another layer of the game? Here's what's actually happening. You are consciousness itself, playing at being a separate individual. You're the universe looking at itself through these particular eyes, and somewhere along the way, you got so convinced by your own performance that you forgot what you actually are. You forgot that the wave is not separate from the ocean. You forgot that you're not a thing that needs to prove itself. You're an event, a happening, a temporary pattern in an infinite dance. And when you're trying to prove your worth, what you're really doing is trying to make the temporary feel permanent. You're trying to nail down something that's inherently flowing. You're trying to create a fixed identity in a reality where nothing is fixed, where everything's constantly changing, including and especially you. Think about it. Who is this you that needs to prove its worth? Is it the same you that existed 10 years ago, 5 years ago, yesterday? Your cells have completely replaced themselves. Your thoughts are different. Your understanding has evolved. So who exactly is collecting all these achievements? Who is this entity that's so worried about its value? The you that you think you are is a story. It's a narrative you've constructed. And you're so busy defending and proving and improving this character that you've lost touch with what's actually here, right now, in this moment, the raw, unfiltered experience of being alive. And here's the cosmic joke, the beautiful paradox at the heart of all this. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth is the moment you discover that worth was never the question. You don't have worth. You don't lack worth. You are beyond worth. You're prior to the whole concept. It's like you've been playing Monopoly your whole life, desperately trying to accumulate money and properties, and suddenly you look up and realize it's just paper and cardboard. The game has no reality outside the agreed-upon rules, and you can stop playing whenever you want. But we're terrified to stop, aren't we? Because if we're not constantly proving ourselves, who will we be? If we're not achieving, striving, improving, what's left? Won't we just collapse into nothingness? Won't we become lazy, purposeless, worthless? This is the fear that keeps the game going. This is the hook that keeps you on the hamster wheel. But it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding. Stopping the exhausting performance of proving your worth doesn't mean becoming passive or purposeless. It means something far more radical. It means waking up to what you actually are. When you stop trying to prove you're valuable, you don't become valueless. You become free. Free to act without that constant calculation. Free to create without needing the creation to validate you. Free to love without needing love to complete you. Free to be wrong, to fail, to be perfectly imperfect, because none of it threatens the core of what you are. So what actually happens when you stop proving your worth? Let me tell you, because this is where everything shifts. First, there's a kind of death. The identities you've been maintaining, the character you've been playing, the person you've been trying to convince everyone you are, including yourself, that starts to fall away, and it's uncomfortable. It feels like losing yourself. But what you're really losing is the false self, the constructed self, the self that was always exhausting to maintain because it was never real to begin with. And in that space, in that gap where the old you used to be, something extraordinary happens. You start to notice life itself, not life as a series of achievements or failures, not life as a performance to be judged, but life as this incredible moment-to-moment unfolding that's happening with or without your approval. You start to act differently. Not because you're trying to be different, but because the motivation behind your actions has fundamentally changed. You're no longer doing things to prove yourself. You're doing things because they're interesting, because they're beautiful, because they're what's natural in this moment. There's a lightness to it, a playfulness. Suddenly, other people's opinions, which used to feel like life and death, become just opinions. Interesting data points, maybe, perspectives to consider, but not the determining factor of your okayness. You stop being a mirror hunter, constantly seeking reflections of yourself in others' eyes. You stop needing everyone to validate your existence. And here's what's wild. When you stop trying to prove you're valuable, you often become more genuinely effective in the world because you're no longer acting from that desperate, grasping energy. You're no longer so caught up in how you're being perceived that you miss what's actually needed. You're no longer so defended, so carefully controlled that you can't adapt and flow with circumstances. Creativity explodes when you stop needing your creations to prove something about you. You can risk, you can experiment, you can fail, because failure is no longer an indictment of your worth. It's just information. It's just part of the process. Relationships transform. You stop relating to people as potential validators or threats to your image. You start actually seeing them, connecting with them. You can be vulnerable because vulnerability is no longer dangerous. It's no longer revealing some shameful inadequacy. It's just honesty. It's just being human. But I want to be clear about something. This isn't about achieving some perfect state where you never feel insecure or never seek validation. That's just another trap, another way of trying to prove you're enlightened enough, spiritual enough, transcendent enough. The trying to prove game is sneaky like that. It'll dress itself up in spiritual clothes if you let it. No, what happens when you stop proving your worth is that you start to catch yourself in the act. You notice when you're performing, you see the pattern playing out. And in that seeing, in that awareness, there's a natural relaxation. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to fix it. You just see it, and the seeing itself creates space. So here we are. I've pointed to the trap. I've shown you the cage. But I can't open the door for you. No one can. This is something only you can do. And the beautiful thing, the terrible, wonderful thing, the door was never actually locked. You were always free. You are free right now. Not free in some future moment when you've achieved enough or healed enough or transformed enough. Free now. Free to stop the exhausting performance. Free to let the whole game go. But what does that actually look like? What's the first step? Well, it starts with noticing. Just noticing. Notice the next time you're calculating how you're coming across. Notice the next time you're about to share an accomplishment, and you feel that little hit of maybe this will prove I'm valuable. Notice the next time you're measuring yourself against some invisible standard. Don't judge it. Don't try to stop it. Just notice it. See it for what it is, a pattern, a habit, a learned behavior that you can choose to engage with or not. And then, just once, try not engaging. Try letting something you do just be what it is without needing it to prove anything about you. Try being with someone without performing. Try looking in the mirror and just seeing yourself, without the commentary, without the judgment, without the constant measurement. See what happens. See how it feels. See if maybe, just maybe, there's a freedom there that's been waiting for you all along. Because here's what I know. You are not broken. You don't need fixing. You don't need to become worthy because you already are whatever you are, and that's enough. It's always been enough. The whole drama of proving and achieving and measuring was just a story you were telling yourself. And you can choose to tell a different story. Or better yet, you can stop telling stories altogether and just be here, now, as this. This moment doesn't require anything from you. This breath doesn't need you to justify it. This awareness that's reading these words right now, it's not asking for proof of worth. It simply is, and you are it. So what happens when you stop proving your worth? Everything. Nothing. Life, exactly as it's always been, but seen with fresh eyes. Yourself, exactly as you've always been, but without the exhausting weight of having to be something more. The performance ends. The person remains. And in that remaining, in that simple being here now, there's a peace that was never actually dependent on achievement or validation or proving anything to anyone. You've always been free. You just forgot. And now you're starting to remember.